Hello, my distant learner friends. We are going to be learning about muckrakers in social studies, which is a type of journalist. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to read a couple of readings to you, go over a couple of slides with you, and then I'll create another video explaining kind of our little research assignment that we're going to do based on a muckraker of your choice. So the essential question, how did muckraking journalists help to uncover corruption? Okay, so corruption going on in the news, internationally, through the government, things like that. And how did these specific journalists help to uncover some of that and bring light to what was really happening? So this is kind of an overview that I'm going to read. Muckrakers were investigating journalists during the Progressive Era, the 1890s to the 1920s, who shone a light on corrupt business and government leaders, as well as major social problems like racism. Ida B. Wells wrote graphically about the horrors of lynching in the South. Her newspaper office was burned to the ground, and she was forced to move to Chicago after her own life became imperiled. Jacob Riis photographed immigrant children who lived among the garbage dumps underneath the wharves in New York City. Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle, revealing the unsafe and unsanitary conditions in the meatpacking industry. Ida Tarbell wrote about the monopolistic practices of John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company, which destroyed small businesses, including her father's. Their reporting generated concern among members of the public and lawmakers, and in some cases led to laws that addressed the problems they were covering. In other cases, problems were exposed by the groundswell of emotion, led to little change. So here is the context. The investigative techniques of the muckrakers included poring over documents, conducting countless interviews, and going undercover. This differed from yellow journalism, where some leading newspapers sensationalized stories using imagination rather than facts. In several cases, muckrakers became activists themselves and spent years speaking throughout the country about their work and the need for reform. The term muckraking was coined by President Teddy Roosevelt in 1906, describing the crusading journalists who wrote stories in late 19th century publications. Roosevelt criticized journalists he thought focused too much on exposing corruption in business and government and not reporting on more positive news. Journalists of the time largely took the term as a compliment and adopted it as a badge of honor for exposing misconduct. So this is just kind of a cool painting that shows the role that journalists played. So it's kind of a play on a cartoon, and you'll see they're carrying like large pens into battle, which obviously they would normally not have pens, but it's just kind of to show you how important they were and influential they were in fighting corruption. This one is kind of cool. It's just a timeline that shows some of the big things that took place and some of the key moments when they were studying and learning about muckraking and some of the things that they uncovered. Like The Jungle, written by Upton Sinclair, is on there. The investigative journalism at an all-time low in the 1950s. During World War II, muckraking declines further in the name of patriotism. So it just kind of shows you like a period of time and how it was influential. So this is kind of a main question. Why is freedom of press essential to any democratic society? And then what is the impact of press on the society? Okay, so freedom of the press is a principal pillar of a free government. So that's why it's so important to have freedom of the press in a democratic society, because we live in a society where freedom of speech is recognized. The press is expected to keep the government in check by arousing strong public attention, exerting enormous pressure on the government in power, and pushing for a change for the better. The credible press outlets represents the voice of the American people. So a lot of times we wouldn't hear about certain things taking place in the government and stuff like that if it weren't for journalists and the work that they do. So in the next video, I'm going to go through what our tasks are going to be and how we're going to investigate some of these muckrakers, and you're going to choose one specifically to do your little project on.